the overview actually. But okay, this is okay. Okay, that one's not here. Sorry. Okay, let's start with the part of the introduction. Okay, information and knowledge management. What are the? These are all the slides that you have online. Okay, what were the objectives of this class, and what could be one question in the final exam, of course. What is the difference between data, information, knowledge? Okay?
Okay.
You remember data, information, knowledge in this picture. This is very meaningful, actually, these two. The data have a very low value. The information is process data, okay? Processor. So the information has more value. What is knowledge? Knowledge is not process data. Knowledge is something that help you process data or help you to take decision. In this example, we have this example. You are not to remember a formula, of course, but the concept, and you can generate an example. Here we have the head and tail. Here you count. The knowledge is counting, and you get this number. The knowledge is probability, you get this number. The knowledge is expectation value formula, you get this number. So the information, you goes from unvaluable information, just HT, what does it mean? Here you have expect value is to lose 0.80. That's more valuable, of course, because you know, it's better don't play this game. Just to tell you, what you use, what you see here is information, what you see there is knowledge that you help you to transform the information. In general, for instance, in a company, knowledge can be not only how to open a door, but can be how to decide I hire or not hire this person, I buy or not buy, I propose, I will sell much in this market or not. This is knowledge, no? So knowledge, data, information. This distinction should be very clear in a course on knowledge management. Okay, another important visual idea is the same idea actually, but you go from data to information using knowledge embedded in information system. Processing, so if information is processed data, processing is knowledge, running knowledge, program are a form of knowledge. And of course, when you get the information, suppose you are a manager in a company, you use the information to take decisions. So knowledge helps to take decision. In this schema, knowledge determines decision determines events generate new data, and so on. But this is the concept. This is wisdom is up there. Wisdom we consider knowledge of a higher level. Okay, subjective versus objective. Our point is objective, so don't bother about subjective view. I'm not going to ask you what it is. But these three are important to know: type of knowledge, location, characteristic. Okay. Objective is like knowledge in object form, represented. Okay. Let's go to the characteristic, type of knowledge. Declarative, procedural. You should know this, of course, the difference and what is. Declarative focused on relationship and properties. Procedural focused on steps, actions. If then, if this apply, then do this. A rule is typical procedural knowledge. An algorithm is a procedural knowledge. Okay. Declarative knowledge is something like all the number multiple of 2 are heaven number. That's a property. Okay? It's a declarative knowledge. You know, you can have, or you can say, all the customers from Italy are very annoying. This is declarative knowledge. Don't tell you how to deal with them, it tells you what's the properties. Okay, explicit and tacit. Don't go on this, but of course you should go, but you should know, but we speak so much about tacit and explicit that it's not worth. Tacit, what is in the mind, or difficult to articulate, even in the organization sometimes, you remember. Explicit is knowledge codifiable, that you can code, represent. Words or number or formula or digital form, no, in general knowledge, not only in digital form. If I draw something on the whiteboard, that's explicit knowledge. Of course, if I draw on the computer, that's explicit digital knowledge. Okay, you can convert in a and this is another method. General and specific, this is less easy to remember. General, large number of individuals. Specific, very specialized. How to make a phone call, everybody knows. How to design a spacecraft, not everybody knows. You need only few people. Technically, contextually specific. Specific knowledge is deep knowledge about a specific area. Technical knowledge, technical or specific, is the same. Okay? So very specialized. Okay? So general, specific, contextually specific. It means specialized in a context. What's the context? Can be the environment where you work or where you act. You are an engineer, you are a doctor. All over the world, you are a doctor. You are a doctor in Hong Kong, you are a doctor in Africa. You should have a little contextually specific, different knowledge. The first one can be acquired by formal training. You can study medicine. You know, the anatomy of the body is the same everywhere in the world. But to be a doctor in Africa with many disease, poor people, is something you cannot teach, you have to experience. So that's why it cannot be acquired through formal training. Okay, just go on. So we have all these three dimension: general, contextual specific, technical specific, explicit tacit, procedural declarative. And could happen that you can be asked to make one example, but if you know what it is, each one, you don't need to remember examples, okay? You have to figure out by yourself. For instance, this one: procedural, explicit, technical. Oh, a manual. It's a procedure, tell you step by step, very technical, manual of computer science, of a printer, for instance. And explicit, because a manual, otherwise it's inside the mind of the technician, the operation. When you read the manual, you learn that this knowledge became tacit. Knowledge and expertise. You remember expertise. Expertise is not technical, but higher quality. An expert is one who is able to perform a task much better than others. Maybe you have many doctors, but some doctor is better. Everybody pay a lot of money to be cured. And many people play tennis, only Federer is the word number one. Okay? So just maybe Faraday is no more the number one. I'm not up to date. Okay, so you can have three kinds of expertise: motor skill, tennis player, surgeon, something that you. Sometimes even people who can not only many physical activity are motor skill, but also there are people that are very smart to answer questions or do computation of numbers, calculating numbers. Even cooks are very, it's a typical motor skill, absolutely. You can cook very rapidly. Okay, associational expertise is the example of people who have a very deep and good procedure, we can say, procedural knowledge, like you. Okay, the TV technician, very experienced, can solve many problems, and he cannot solve a new TV, completely new TV technology, because he has not the deep theoretical knowledge. Deep theoretical knowledge are usually scientists, engineers, people who solve unknown problems. Usually associational expertise is for problems well known, and theoretical deep expertise is for problems. And usually associational expertise is associated with procedure, theoretical expertise is associated with declarative knowledge. I know the property of the screen, of the computer, and I can discover the new solution. Here I'm just having a course very deep, maybe I have a lot of experience, but I cannot solve a new problem, usually. Okay, what is the knowledge? The knowledge can be in the people, individual groups, can be in technologies, practice. Practice means like tradition, we can say, not tradition, behavior typically, and repositories, libraries, documents. Knowledge can be also in the organization. The units, the structure of the organization is a form of knowledge. I have my boss, the boss has his manager, the manager has respond to the CEO. All this structure is knowledge. So knowledge can be explicit, can be represented, teachable, specified. Okay, we don't go on that, and then I close all my window, try to open. Okay. Sorry. This is still open? No. I'm supposed to close the file, instead I close the browser. Okay, here we are. So we, practically, let me see, we have some extra slides here. Yeah, these extra slides were just an example of the difference of knowledge, information, and data. You remember the football team results. Okay, the second part was about knowledge management, because now we just define what is knowledge and how to classify the knowledge. Benefit and challenges, knowledge management system. What is knowledge management? Okay, we mention also the intellectual capital, and we mention this is fundamental, of course, the big four tasks of knowledge with their subtasks. discovery, capture, sharing, and applying. You have a lot of examples of this. Again, before you remember, we have seen the knowledge. Where is the knowledge? Here, seems similar, but it's not exactly that. It shows you these slides and this discussion about how valuable is the knowledge. Before, for company, analysts were only considering financial capital and few other elements. Nowadays, this part, money and tools and properties are not only that the most important factor of the company value, the market value, but the intellectual capital people has become aware of how much is important in intellectual capital. People, just think about Apple, with the death of Steve Jobs, for instance. Apple values is not that valuable anymore. For engineering means, for instance, in fashion industry, the human capital is so important because the power of the designers to give a value to the company is very important. And the structural value, customer, innovation, and process capital. The way you produce is also some intellectual knowledge. The production process, the knowledge embedded in the production process is very important. And the innovation capital, that is related, for instance, with patent, intellectual properties. And this is, something really, here we have the example, human capitals, knowledge in the mind of the vendors and customers. For instance, in this kind of knowledge, you also have the brand image, the value of a brand. Okay, we were here, the motivation, blah, blah, blah. Intellectual capital, motivation, of course, is to increase the, sorry that I'm, okay, which are, among the main motivation, we focus on the driving forces, domain complexity, market volatility, speed, and diminishing individual experience. In the case study we saw before, it's all about the people have no more experience like before. The shop assistant is very young. You hire people, you want people to work like very efficiently if they don't have experience. So this is one of the main issue. It's one of the many, but it's one of the main issue in modern KM and knowledge management. And here we have the explanation of the different. In fact, I made the example: younger managers feels like great. Turnover is a problem. Okay, what is it? One point of the structure. What is a knowledge management system? Knowledge management system is a combination of a social structure, mechanism, and technology. So the system is not only an information system or an application, but it's also mechanism. Mechanism can be what mechanism can be. We will see. Of course, for each task, we can have a system. Discovery system, capture system, talent system, application system. This is apparent. In fact, the systems are not only technology, but also human factors. So I always use this example of our learning commons, a place for studying and interacting. That's part of our knowledge management system for knowledge sharing and knowledge acquisition. Okay, let's go to the other pack. Oh my God, I switch off again. So, I have to Solution, again, this was the things that I mentioned, system, mechanism, technologies, and of course, infrastructure. The mechanisms are similar to what we just said. Yeah. So the process, this is very, if you study and you want to make a very short summary of the whole course, maybe some picture like this one are very important, because you figure out discovery is discover new knowledge. Some people can also use the word creating, but the technical word is discovering. You can also use creating, okay? Or data mining is this idea of finding, digging and finding. But this is not about data mining, it's more general. Discovery, capture. Capture is the knowledge is somewhere, you capture this knowledge. You're not to discover, it's already existing, but you capture. Okay, how do you capture? You externalize if it's internal. You internalize if it's external. Okay? Usually the internalization means learning. The externalization means writing documents, communicating, teaching. Okay? It's an example. Combination. Combination is about discovering knowledge by using existing knowledge. Like we come up with a new ideas on, I don't know, we were working recently in social network analysis. How we come up with this new idea? Oh, I can say I'm a genius and blink, I had these ideas. Not like that. I've read many journal paper, scientific article. I go to conference, so I combine a lot of knowledge and come up with this new idea. This is knowledge discovery using explicit knowledge. If I generate knowledge, new knowledge, by interacting with people, suppose you are doing your group project, you come up with a very smart idea, you discover knowledge by socialization. In the real case, it's always a mix, because maybe you read something, you combine some document, you socialize, but to give a classification, knowledge discovery can happen, take place by combination specialization. Sharing is, I have some knowledge, I pass to you. How can I pass the knowledge? We socialize, you learn talking to me, or another way of socializing, you learn observing me. Or we exchange, I write a book and give you a book. I built up a knowledge repository, you go to the knowledge repository and learn. This is knowledge sharing. And finally, application. Application can be direction or routines. What is the difference? We will see in a minute. Don't go through this. Okay. So, the direct direction is the process through which individual possessing the knowledge direct the action of another individual without transferring to that person the knowledge. Okay. What means? Direction, this word, is a relative, I mean, is some sense the whole relatives, the word direction and the word director, okay? So in direction, in knowledge application by direction, there's someone who plays the role of the director. I tell you, do this, do that, okay? This is acting without transferring. Routines is the use of knowledge embedded in procedure, rules, and norms that guide future behavior. Basically, routines is procedure knowledge. Okay? So, you know, when people play basketball, they have this name, they say, yeah, to the skin, no? They have a procedure. So they don't tell step by step what to do, like in direction, but they rely in routines. So the people who apply the knowledge has a procedure that he knows. Okay? So if I want someone to do like how to fix this cabinet by routines, I just tell him, please fix this cabinet with the technique number 1, and he knows completely what to do because he has this routine knowledge. So sometimes we, a single person, may act by direction because he's using some other help, help, or because he used rules, procedure. Okay? And this is important, of course, how to convert. You have to, if you rehearse this part, just figure out, close, don't write anything and think. How can convert from explicit to tacit? How can convert the knowledge from explicit to explicit? I can convert, what is explicit? Explicit is outside, in the document, for instance, in this screen. Okay? So from this screen goes to your mind. Okay, that's from explicit to tacit. From I talk to you, then it goes from me to you. From tacit to tacit. Of course, for a little time, you stay in the sound knowledge, but this is tacit to tacit. So you can feel ideally all these examples, no? Explicit to explicit. You turn a document in some other form, or you can transform the knowledge. Tacit to explicit, you break down your knowledge. Okay, and this is of course, I told you many times this is a big picture that we should take into account because it tells you everything about knowledge management. We have, it doesn't tell you the knowledge classification that we saw in the beginning, but the 4 processes, the 4 or task, the subtasks, the system, which are related to the task, and the mechanism and technology. Technology are programs or application. Mechanisms are, I use the example of the learning common, but let's speak about a mechanism. Brainstorming is a mechanism. If you do brainstorming with the computer conference system, then you are using technology for implementing the mechanism. If you do brainstorming in a room with paper and pen, then you are using the mechanism directly as it is. So for instance here I mentioned on-the-job training. On-the-job training is a way of learning by observation, okay? It's a similar to the, no, it's not exactly learning by observation. In learning by observation, you don't work, you just observe. In on-the-job training, you just learn by experiencing the work. And if you think about the knowledge transfer, it's going to tacit, from tacit to tacit. Okay? Then you have a mechanism supported by group-aware system. These are examples of technology. Just look at the last ones. Expertise locator, video conference, information repositories, knowledge repositories. are implemented by information repositories and information retrieval. So mechanism and technology give rise to the system. I skip all this. Here where maybe if you want to see some example, this is a good slide. Sub-process combination, when you combine more documents, mechanism connected with this system, meetings, telephone meetings, collaborative creation of documents. Technology for doing this. You can collaboratively create a document in a room. Yes. With no technology, yes. Maybe you have done this on your group, okay? But when you apply technologies, which technology you need for all these things here? Database, data mining, portals, and so on. Okay, but the infrastructure, as we said, organization, culture, organization, structure, information technology, infrastructure, common knowledge, physical environment. The organizational culture is the norm and belief that guide the group behavior. I used the example of the university. I used the example of IBM that is giving incentives and encouragement for interaction. So people are pleased, are prized if they are rewarded, if they share information or knowledge. And the management support all this. For instance, in the example of the university, all these student societies to fill your free time are also meant for knowledge sharing. I was thinking about, no, I didn't take. Because in the elevator, I rip off one leaflet I want to show you, but I leave in my room. Okay. The structure of the organization, for instance, the hierarchical structure affects the individual with which people interact. Organizational structure, community, forum, roles in the organization. This all change in the way we interact and we exchange knowledge and we execute knowledge. The IT infrastructure, of course. If you don't have a network, if you don't have a database application, you cannot do anything with it. You can do a lot without, but not with technology. And common knowledge is the example I told you. You have a basic knowledge, which is common to all of you. Physical environment, the learning commons is a good example of physical environment. The campus concept, all the students stay in one place. And here again we have examples. I mean, we have a summary. This is a good one as well. To Riart's summary. Okay, let's go to, no, again. Let's see if I have knowledge assessment. Knowledge assessment is that part that needs to be, it's important in the project, it's very important because it needs to analyze which is the needs for knowledge management. So why KM is needed? Baseline for implementing. So the first part, of course, is to see what is the current situation on knowledge management, maybe by interview, qualitative and quantitative assessment, etc. But, okay, sorry, but, what is the, okay, but we have to evaluate this using metrics, something that you can measure. And here are the example of illustrative measure. Illustrative measure are important because I don't want just to say, okay, knowledge management is okay. What does it mean? Maybe it means that you have a lot of cooperative projects, then you probably do, or you publish many patents, then you are measuring actually knowledge discovery. So each one can be measured in some way, depending, of course, of the organization. Measure means numbers. So, and they're important because you can measure and say, this is better than this. Now we are improving, or now we are going worse. So if you don't have an illustrative measure, you don't have a real assessment. And of course, the assessment should consider impact on employees, process, product, organizational. An example again of illustrative measures in other cases. Okay. Okay. What this part is not considered. I want to go quickly through these three groups of slides about the assessment. Let me see. Okay, here we say what is the typical plan of the knowledge process, sample questions, etc. The most important part is the B, what I call 5B, the strategy. And just by the way, I expect this you have considered in some time. We also made a little exercise in class about this, so I expect you consider this. So, the analysis and the strategy. So the assessment, of course, you have to figure out some illustrative measure to say the number of new new project. You are in a restaurant. The number of new recipes, new offers in the menu, new products. Okay. In this part, that's important. We learn a methodology. We learn a procedure, how to do. Okay. Then, and we know that this depends from 4 big parameters: knowledge characteristic, task characteristic, environment characteristic, organization characteristic. And we have a method to put all this together. Okay? In particular, I go here, okay. We know the knowledge characteristic. We already know that. Now we will see what they have to do with knowledge, with the strategy. In particular, the task characteristics are something that is related with a particular task in the company that you are analyzing. And these 2 characteristics are, you should know what they mean. Task uncertainty, task interdependence. Okay? Task uncertainty is when the task is changing or unpredictable or has some aspect that are not so secure. Task, and here you have all the relationship. Okay, when task uncertainty is high, reduce the ability to develop routines, because you have to change every time. You cannot develop a routine or write down a routine, or you have to decide every time. Maybe you have a different situation. Okay, when task uncertainty is high, externalization and internalization will be more costly due to changing problem and times. When task uncertainty is low, routine can be developed. You have time, it's worth to develop, to spend time. So in the first case, we prefer direction, in the other case, we prefer routines. Only looking at the task uncertainty. And here you have all the explanation. Task interdependence is two people are doing a task in a company, how much they are bound together. Their activity, my activity needs yours, or yours needs mine. Of course, if we are very dependent, we need a lot of communication and coordination. Means we need a lot of sharing. If we are independent, no, of course we don't need. So, if we perform independent tasks, we need the knowledge directly available. If we externalize knowledge, we can communicate to the other easier. If we internalize, we learn. This is the idea, okay? So internalization and externalization are the use of an independent task domain. So, and here instead you have interdependence. If we are dependent to each other, then we need to interact. So socialization is important in both cases. In interdependent tasks, discovery and sharing. And here we have again one very summarization of all the concepts here. These are the suggestion for uncertainty low, uncertainty high, suggestion of interdependence low and high, and in the cross between the two you find only the intersection and what are the conclusion about the analysis of these two only. But we don't have these two only. You remember, we have knowledge characteristic, tacit and explicit, dependence and uncertainty of the task. Then we have this part, contingency factor of environmental and organizational characteristic. Environmental and organization characteristics, sorry, I don't know why it's not here yet. Let's see. The next group of slide. Which one are you open? This. Just a moment. I don't see the slides. Let me try again. It's all here. I don't know why I skip. Okay, I just skip. I just pressed the page down too fast. Okay. Okay. Task. What is task? You have to remember this. I know some people misunderstand this because then you have uncertainty again. Task is the task in the organization. My organization maybe is doing many tasks. And this is one task in the organization. I use the example of the restaurant. The waiter, the cashier, the cook. Okay, they are different tasks. Task of cooking, task of serving, task of paying. And the whole task that is serving in general. Okay? So when we speak about task characteristics, we speak about these tasks. When we speak about environmental uncertainty, you look at the restaurant in the environment. You don't look inside the restaurant. This is what I want to mean. Okay? So, first characteristic, easier, is the size. Is big or small the organization? If it's large, usually large organizations use routines. If it's small, usually small organizations use direction. Okay, this is in one word, in one phrase. Okay, everybody knows that. Again, in a restaurant, maybe in a very large restaurant, you have routines because someone new hired. You have to know what you have to learn. Maybe you take a course like McDonald's. In a small restaurant, just you have the chef is shouting, do this. It's direction, directly you have orders. There's someone directing the activity. And it's obvious why, because knowledge sharing through exchange of documents or other forms is recommended for large organizations. Why? Socialization, one-to-one, face-to-face, is more for small organizations. And of course, this is also related business strategy. That's another characteristic of the organization. Business strategy, low cost, and business strategy, differentiation, more quality. You say low cost, you prefer application to develop better way of producing the service. If you want to produce more quality, more feature, you better have knowledge discovery, knowledge capture. Here is the difference. So the restaurant is in Hong Kong, let's say. Or the business, the restaurant industry is has a high uncertainty or not. There are some industry has more high uncertainty than others. So you have to consider the different environment in which your organization is. And here we have all the suggestions combined. But how to combine everything, all the contingency factor in some suggestion? Here, this card, you are not to remember whole, but just the reasoning, that we have for each task, process, combination, socialization, etc., sub-process, we have the ideal case in which is advisable. So the real case will be different. Sometimes match completely, sometimes doesn't match completely the suggestion. So what we do is, the techniques is this, the methodology, let's say, so we identify the task, the main process. We identify the task we want to work on, for instance, in the restaurant. We say, let's work on the task of the waiter, okay? You assess all the contingency factor. We prioritize the needed KM process, so we understand which is the most important part. Of course, we have a look, identify the existing KM process, we see how they do in practice, and we see if we can improve the most important process by system, mechanism, or technology. This is the way. This is just a chart showing how to analyze objective, process, sub-process, and so on, but the important part, I will not ask you if this is a 2.5, but in general, the important part is that for your future culture, the important part or for the project is that you assess, you give points to each item depending on what you observe in the company you consider, in the task you consider, and you find that some of the sub-process got more points than others. So these sub-process are the priority sub-process. Then you look at the company and you say, okay, but in the previous phase of assessment, they were doing already good. So I don't need to do anything on this. Maybe I need to do something on the second. Or, on the other hand, they don't have knowledge management, then I work on the higher priority. Okay, this is the part that we saw in this part of strategy. I hope now Of course, the last classes are closer to now, so we don't need so much to go, but okay, knowledge capturing was all about this. Of course, is important, techniques of knowledge capture. Which technique we have seen, they are summarized here. The interview can take place a single or multiple, okay? And different problem that you can find in the interview. But these are important to know what's on-site observation, the action protocol, brainstorming, can be conventional or consensus decision making, nominal group techniques, Delphi, repertory grid, and concept mapping. We just talk about the blackboarding for speaking about the groupware. So we spend also some time to introduce the groupware. Let me skip this part on the interview. Although in the interview what we remember, this part. Individual, group, non-group. We remember, problem that you can have in an interview. And the type of interview, structure, unstructured, semi-structured, with depending on you do question or not. This is providing a form with questions. Example. Let's go to the different, just to give you some few phrases about each technique to remind. Upside on observation is, you remember, this is knowledge capture. You want to produce to understand how you can, for instance, you are program analyst. You have to design a program. So you want to extract the knowledge to understand. On-site observation. Okay, you observe. Brainstorming, it's to generate consensus on an idea. It's important to know how is structured brainstorming. We have spent some time on this. This is basically the structure. There is the knowledge coordinator or facilitator, how do you want to call, gives the problem, people freely propose and generate idea, and then the coordinator try to make people converge on a single agreement. It can be electronic. Protocol is when people tell you how they do. They explain their protocol of reasoning. The knowledge developer do not interfere. It just analyzes at the end. It says, let's see if I understand, and formalize what he collect and analyzed. Consensus is basically voting on an issue, on a proposal, and more important is nominal group. Nominal group is structured. The difference is that you have a written report and the people interact by writing. This is important to remember. You give a problem and the alternate solution. In nominal group technique, you give the solution. In brainstorming, you don't give the solution. You remember I used the example of deciding if we want to build the new MTR station in this place or in this place. We don't ask where we build the MTR station, and they can suggest any place. This is brainstorming approach. In the other case, instead, nominal group technique, we we ask to give priority and the discussion often, so basically choose the best solution from alternative. Often all these can be anonymized to avoid the social bias. Okay. Delphi is similar again. Everyone is similar to the previous one. You have a survey made of an expert. This expert shares the contribution and go to the result of one contribution are used to construct the next questionnaire. So you start to form general problem that the people interact in a written form again, and you focus more and more, but everything happens written and anonymously. The questionnaire are very important here to how they answer. Repertory grid, if you remember, this was a grid that you ask someone to draw. The example was HR, human resources people doing the interview has to decide which hire or not hire. So you ask him to write down a grid of different parameters, and then the knowledge developer take this grid and can apply some techniques to represent, to extract this knowledge, the knowledge from this grid. Concept mapping is when you use a concept map. The concept map is also in the knowledge representation part. And here they are the principle of a concept mapping. Nodes are concept and arcs are relationship. Blackboarding is when everybody, usually is used for cooperative development or shared project development, use the same environment. For instance, a single document on the web, and everybody can update this single document. This technique is called Blackboard because it's like you come down and write on the blackboard. This is white, but the traditional name is Blackboard. It needs efficient storage and location of information. Okay, close. I still have one? No. No, I mean one open. Okay, we are almost concluding lecture, but we will open as well and have a brief look. Knowledge-based system, I say only slide 44, so all this bunch of slides is to be limited. And I download this easier. And these are the last two classes that I don't mention. I want to spend a few minutes to show you the final exam sample that I will put online later. So it was this one, e-word and e-business. So this part on e-word and e-business was focusing on tools for knowledge transfer, like a groupware and workflow management system, and knowledge portal and intelligent agents. Let me go from 30, I say 30, 44. Is there no? No, there's something wrong. Let me check in one moment in what did I wrote in the, yeah. Okay, no, this one, okay, sorry. I just skipped that one. Okay, no, because I was, okay.
小朋友你几岁了？请问你几岁？
今年8岁，
Yes.
还在吃奶中。
Okay. In this part, we have presented. I'm not.
是你想的
look for 30. Okay.
我真的是
This
吃奶
part
粉。
to 44. That is this 44. Okay, this one. Before this one. And we didn't do the frame and the case-based reasoning as well. Sorry, again, 30. Because I don't see the number in the other view. Okay, so we have seen knowledge map, decision table, decision tree. Knowledge map, decision table, decision tree are three techniques
跟不上他速度。
for knowledge
我完全不知
representation.
道他在哪里。
Knowledge map is basically similar to concept map. Okay, it's basically the same with another name. And decision tree, you know this because you know we have seen the decision tree techniques is also important. And these are the motivation. The difference is that nodes represent goals, links, decision, or outcomes. Usually internal nodes represent decision, leaves represent outcomes. What can be the outcome in the decision tree in general can be a decision, like to apply the discount. In a decision tree, applied to classification is the class of the classification. But in general, decision tree can also be applied for procedure. Actually, program are forms of decision tree. Program with loops are decision networks, but simple programs, simple software are form of decision tree. The tree can be transformed in a table, and this is a decision table. Another form of knowledge can be rules. What is to do, why we mention rules 2 times? Because here is for knowledge representation. In data mining is for knowledge discovery. So rule-based system. Okay. One thing is representing, the other thing is discovery. But here we discover that rules can be applied in many different ways to represent conditional knowledge, to represent response plan action, to represent diagnosis, like forecasting, to represent cause and effect. They are slightly different. Okay, for instance, in the basket analysis, you say, if you have this product, you will have this. Also together at the same time. Here you say cause effect. If you don't read the textbooks or attend the class, you will fail. That's in the future. It's not an observation that you can verify immediately. Okay? And you can do inference chain. You can connect many rules to have a deduction and doing reasoning. And actually, automated reasoning is often done with this technique. And you can also have uncertainty connected with rules. Okay, stop here now. And last minute, 9:30, we will have a look to some sample questions. Okay, I want to tell you these questions are real. Real, that I mean, it's not this year's question, but they were given last year. Okay. This is how the you didn't give any. Okay, you take the picture, but I will put online. That's valuable. But you can do this. If I get sick and I forget to put online. Okay, usually the exam looks like this. Okay. so you know what you expect in the exam paper.
我觉得你这句说得太
In my case, I decided everybody do this, okay? But I can decide a different number. The total number of marks is 100, okay? And I decide to tell you each question which number of marks has. Usually, I range from 8 to 12 or 13, no much than there, no less than 8, okay? There are 10 questions. The questions are open-ended, and I also label the question with the area in which we consider we explain the question. Okay, we study, we learn. How can explicit knowledge be transferred to tacit?
第一个我就不会了。
You say today is very easy because 10 minutes ago we were speaking about this. Maybe into 1 week will not be so easy. Explain the general process, provide an example, point out some IT tool which can be used to manage and answer monitor this kind of thing. Focus on the provided example, on the domain of your project, providing the title of your project. Okay, I explain to you. I decide all the time, I use this is my personal habit. When I ask you an example, I ask you to give the example in the case of your group project, so you can reason on that. Of course, maybe you don't come up with an example in your project case. Okay, but I tell you, I prefer an example which is different from the example on the slides, on the lecture notes, will be much more appreciated. Of course, no example is not appreciated, so there is a degree, a ranking, okay? Just as a suggestion. How much is too much to write? No. It's just you have more opportunity to write, so you don't need you to fulfill everything. Just a few phrases for each one. Okay, here I report a sample, very big answer. It's better you don't take a picture. You will be misleading. Okay. No, it's because we have to provide a sample answer, because for any reason, one gets sick or not, another professor should be able to mark. Okay? So, but usually the answer is it's not very long, but it's longer, because we tell them we want one or more of this element. Doesn't need to be everything. Of course, every person can give a different answer, basically. Of course, you focus on the basic concept of the question. This is another example. Impact, I skip number 2, okay? Impact of knowledge process, consider the factor, environmental uncertainty firm sites, how they impact the suitability of our knowledge project, how these two factors are evaluated in case of your group project again. Okay, let's say about the group project. Here, if I say, I provide the title of the project, I have the case of some people during the exam asking, Professor, I don't remember the title of my group project. That's really bad. Okay. If you don't remember the wording or you miss some word, it's okay, but I expect you to remember the title of the project, okay? So this is about what we spoke about today. Environmental uncertainty, I, what does it mean? Company size, high, small, and high. We were just... classification of expertise. Describe, looks like open is this. At least one category, I'm not asking anything particular. These are just the definition that we have seen. Motor skill, theoretical expertise. Knowledge representation. Describe how concept map represent knowledge. Illustrate your explanation with the help of a graphical representation of the concept map. Means draw an example, okay? and explain. An example, knowledge representation and technique. What is the dominant in technical basket analysis? What kind of knowledge process it support? Today and last time, today we are really on this. Provide an example of benefit. This needs a little reasoning. Okay, what is useful for? Cross-selling, upselling, on-the-shelf relocation. I mean, this is basket analysis. If it was a technique of classification, maybe it's using for customer segmentation. This is an example of real instruction. Okay. Oh, this is less expected. Employee turnover. Wow. Company experiencing high employee turnover rate. Which kind of KM process technical system can be used to prevent or avoid losing of expertise of their best employee? Oh, we had this in many different places. Okay, here I suggest knowledge sharing, knowledge transfer, knowledge, etc. Okay. Last example. On-the-job training, formal class training. If you remember also the case study that we have seen, it was for high employee turnover. They applied to that case. Okay, knowledge capturing technique. Which are the most common knowledge for capture? Taste it from expert. Describe one technique of your choice. I leave you free. How can groupware system support the implementation of those techniques? And here you can mention one of these. Describe, for example, brainstorm, links, some communication tools used in groupware, external voting share. Of course, this is a sample answer, very short, okay? But you can explain how groupware, for instance, let's say you are speaking, for example, on brainstorming, you can explain that you can do a brainstorming with video conference system where people are interacting on a blackboard, in a whiteboard. Okay? That's a typical example. Okay, this is the end. I hope you enjoy this period together. We share a lot of nice things, not so much, but some. And I remind you, I'm available for questions. I'm sure you will have some questions, despite of the late, and some people are waiting for presenting the project to me. I wish you the best for your project presentation to me. So tomorrow I will see you again, some of you again, so you will read. I have to change my word tomorrow. And okay, that's it. I remind you that on the 4th, there is a deadline if you want to apply for the exchange program to Italy. It's December the 4th. You will be the most welcome, of course. And in the past, a lot of people had a lot of fun and reached a very good experience for this age, let's say. And this age is the most important time of your life that you should do some experience abroad before really working, let's say. Not that you are not working. You're doing a great job. Okay, so questions. I will put this online, I promise.